All right, so now the next thing we want to do is start importing some stuff. There's some different ways we could do it. First of all, if I have this open, one of the things that I could do is I could take skydiving clip.mp4 and I could just drag it here. That's one option, and I just drag it straight into my project panel. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be to go to File, Import, and then you could choose either File, multiple files, depending on what you're doing. You could import stuff from here. Okay, so to get that on this stage, there are two different ways that I could deal with this. One is that I could drag it into the stage directly. When I say stage, I mean composition, right? So I'm dragging into the composition window. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that it's not centered, right? I could manually try to place this thing if I wanted, but instead of doing that, the other thing that I could do is I could go up to Window and I could choose the Align box, and let's take a look at Align, and I could choose to center it. So that's one thing that I could do here, and I'm going to double click Align again. That's how I got it, by the way, is I double clicked it. I can also pull this out and put it like over here if I wanted, so that it's next to project or something like that if I want to have easy access to it. I don't want to add it up here, so I drag it and I dropped it over in this panel. So if I look at the alignment, I could, right align, left align, center, and so forth, and I can make sure it's centered that way as well. So that's one option. Now, if you don't want to have to do that, let's go ahead and let's just delete this instance. So I'm going to select it down here in the layers down where it shows me my composition stuff, and I'm just going to hit the delete key and it removes it. It's that simple. So if I want to just have it automatically center without having to do the alignment, I can just click on the clip up here in the project panel, and I can drag it down and just drop it into the layer, and it automatically places it dead center. Now, the other thing that might happen is, let's say that you come down here and you double click this. You double click the layer and you didn't mean to, maybe it was an accident, and you look at this and you're like, what just happened? One thing that you'll notice is that this tab up here says layer. We were in the composition. This says layer, and it shows you the whole video. And it also allows you to hit playback. So if I hit the space bar, it'll actually play the whole video for me so I can see what all is in that video. This is like sort of like in Premiere, if you've used Premiere, like the source monitor, right? But it's basically just showing me what's in that layer, okay? And it allows me, if I want, I'm just going to hit the space bar to pause it. I could set in and out points here. That's what these things are. There's some different things that I could do. But I'm just going to leave this alone. I could choose grid and guide options if I wished. You can take a snapshot. There are all these different things. I could also, if this was like a logo with transparency, I could like have the transparency layer on for the grid, but this doesn't. It's just a solid movie, right, with no transparency. So if I don't want to see this, I can either close it with this little X right here, or I could just simply click back over to composition. Right? So it doesn't matter. Anytime I'm going to close it though, because anytime you want to see what is in a layer, you can just double click it. If I double click this up here where it says skydiving clip.mp4 inside the project panel, it's going to show me not the layer, but it shows me the footage. It's the same kind of thing. So there's a chance that you might have something going on different in a layer than you would in the raw footage, right? So like you might have added, transitions or things like that, and that would show in the layer preview. Whereas if I just double click it over here from project, where it's just the raw asset, it shows me the raw footage. Okay, so just don't be confused by that, and don't be confused about how to get back out. You can just close this and then go back to the composition tab. Okay. All right, and so what I'm going to do, and see now it's showing it where I had scrubbed it forward. If I take this in the timeline and I scrub the timeline back, now I can look at the beginning, right? I can go all the way to the beginning if I want. All right, so as I'm looking at this, I realize that I don't think that I want it to start exactly like that. I think that I want to start it so that this wheel is closer to the edge, and I want to take a look and see what would happen if I change that. So while my playback head is set to the very beginning, I'm going to twirl down this little drop menu in my layer, and you see that each layer, and when I have more layers, you'll see that each layer actually does have this automatic option is underneath each layer. You see that there's a transform option. And if you twirl the transform down, you can see that there are all these different things that you can do on that specific layer in terms of keyframing. And if you remember um, from Premiere, if you have worked in Premiere before, that these little things right here are little stopwatch icons, meaning that it's a stopwatch to set your different keyframes, right? So that you've got your tweening, where you've got keyframes that mark or demarcate major changes in the action, whatever that happens to be, or in opacity, whatever that property is, right? Opacity, rotation, scale, position, or an anchor point. And so in this case, I don't want to actually keyframe it, but I do want to change the overall position. At least I don't want to keyframe it yet. I want to change the overall position. And so this first value is going to be on the x-axis so that I can change something side to side. And the right value is going to be moving the picture up and down. So if I drag it this way, I can say, all right, well, I think I want to start it like somewhere, maybe, I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark, right? I think I like this framing to start. And I think I can't change the vertical orientation because this is 1080 tall, and my native resolution for this video is 1080. So if I change the vertical positioning, then it's gonna be off the screen. It's just gonna show white in the background. So I can't adjust that, right? But right now I've got it set so that the movie is set to play off the side of the screen like this a little bit. Now I could see how this looks when I play it, and I could make a decision if I want to keep it there for the whole thing, right? That's one option. And I think that I kind of like that, but the only thing that maybe I'm not sure if I like is I don't know if I care. Here, let's just stop that. I don't know if I care for whenever it gets about right here, he's off center. This little guy right here is off center, and he kind of migrates towards the center, but I think I want him to be more in the center, like maybe here, right? So I probably need to make some kind of keyframe adjustment on that. So let's see exactly where I think I want that change to happen. Like maybe, I don't know. Let's see if it's somewhere like maybe here that I can add that keyframe. So what I'd want to do is, first of all, let's go ahead and I'm going to click on this stopwatch right here, and that adds a keyframe. And right now it's still where I had it before. I had it at 381 on the left value. And then if I grab this and I grab the timeline playback head and I go all the way back to the beginning, I'm going to add another keyframe so that it sets it there from the beginning. And the way that I do that, I don't click the stopwatch because that'll undo what I did before. That'll reset everything. What I want to do is click on this little diamond shape over here on the left side in this column and see it adds another keyframe right there. All right, and so what now I can do is I can drag my playback head, find my other keyframe, and here's a trick. If I have this twirled down and it's open so that the whole transform set of options are showing, and I have a keyframe set up in that timeline, I can drag the playback head, hold down the shift key, and it'll snap to that keyframe, which is fantastic. Now if I want to click on this keyframe so that it turns blue, and that way I know that I'm adjusting the right thing. And so in this case, this is where I think that I want to drag it over, you know, so that maybe, I don't know, it's somewhere over here, and this guy is in focus, you know, somewhere in this ballpark, maybe, and then as we come forward, see this guy starts to migrate right into the center, or right up towards the center. I think that that ends up working pretty well. And so what I've done is I've panned the footage a little bit. Let's just see how that works. Because one of the things also that I think might end up happening is later I'm going to end up trying to have the logo come sliding in from the side again. And I think having this guy too close in the center might be a problem because of where the little mountain is. And so let's see if he works right there for right now. But I kind of like this guy in the center right there, and then just sort of falling, and then this guy comes moving up from the bottom right. Okay, so that's how I've got that keyframed, and let's just hit the playback and we can see how the action looks and see if we're okay with that for right now. And you see how it plays back pretty smoothly because I don't have a lot of effects and stuff applied. Now, one thing you'll notice is it just keeps on playing past the clip. So I'm going to hit the spacebar and stop it. The reason that's happening is because I've got my work area set all the way out here to 30 seconds. I know I don't want this thing to be 30 seconds long. So for right now, let's just stop it at the end of this clip. And once again, if I hold down Shift, it'll snap to the end of that clip. It'll snap to the closest thing that it can find. All right, so now if I hit, let's go like that far. If I hit the space bar, you'll see that the playback will actually stop whenever it gets to the end of the work area and it starts over. Okay, and it'll just keep going in a loop until I stop it. All right, so that's the first way that's really simple that you can get some footage in. You can get it onto the composition screen, and then you can start monkeying around with the layers, and you can start adding keyframes to things. Like you could also change rotation, scale, opacity. I'm not going to do that yet, at least not to this video. And then in the next one, I'll show you how you can add a PSD file.